I grew up here, and I was born and raised in these hills, for lack of a better phrase, and I loved working cattle with my dad and just being out here and doing this. But when I went to college at K-State, he really encouraged me not to go into ag because he knows how hard it is and just how stressful it can be. And he lived through the 80s when there were so many bankruptcies and so many farms went under. And I think he was his way of trying to make a better life for me, but he didn't realize that this was really part of who I was. We were living in Texas, and we had the opportunity to move back when Stella was an infant. And so we just jumped on it because we knew if we didn't take that opportunity then the opportunity wouldn't be there for another 10 or 15 or 20 years. And so we moved back with a 2-month-old, and my dad just welcomed us with open arms, and he and I run the ranch, and Jay is our hired hand.
Intern?
Intern, that's a better, unpaid intern. It's a better term, but the girls are with us most of the time. They come along, and they're also unpaid interns.
Yeah. Ultimately, when we got married and we had a short honeymoon trip, we knew back then we had this idea that we wanted to do farm to plate. We knew it back then when we lived in Texas, there was a desire for it, demand, and there wasn't enough supply. So we kind of joked about this exact idea 8 or 9 years ago, and then we did it. So
we talked about it.
Took a long time.
The flavor of the beef is really dependent on what it eats. And so, I mean, I guess that's kind of a big reason why we like Salt Creek. I mean, their meat tastes like grass. It tastes good, but they also grain finish, so give them some grain, so it gives it some fat too. Sometimes like just strictly grass-fed beef, I think is like too lean for me, and it doesn't have marbling, it doesn't have much flavor, and I think it's quite a bit of a divergence from what people are used to in normally getting beef from the grocery store or other sources. So if you can find like kind of a nice balance for me between that like all grass-fed beef and then, conventional grain-fed, then I think that's kind of what I'm looking for.